May 7th. I hope everybody's had a good week. Salvo wants to know. We're jumping right into the questions or our Q&A. He says warm up. Wants to know warm up for trombone. So I was just talking to John, who's also on the call, about warming up for trombone. And so what I like to think about is 3 distinct areas of warming up. And those things are 1, long tones, sound, right? So thinking about sound, first and foremost, sound is always the primary vehicle for us to express ourselves. So I think of sound first. And from sound, that means long tones. It might be playing a ballad melody. It might be a lot of things. But thinking about sound. And then we have flexibility. So flexibility being all things related to being able to play what needs to happen in any situation. So for me, that means being able to play low, high, fast, slow. A lot of people just think about it as lip slurs, but it's not just lip slurs. It's many, many things. So flexibility is the second area, including lip slurs and also including high range, low range, pitch bends, all these kind of things. And then the third area is articulation. You got to practice legato. You got to practice staccato. And in jazz, we kind of go right in the middle. Steve Trey calls it staccato. So I'm going to borrow his phrasing, staccato. It's got the front of a staccato note. It's got the body of a legato note, and it has a little bit of separation from the next. So that's what it is. So that's what I would do to warm up. And so when I'm warming up, I kind of rotate through lots of different exercises over the years. It's been many things. Sometimes it's longer, sometimes it's shorter. None of those things are super important. What's important to me is that you hit all of those kind of pillars along the way. And so those pillars being sound, flexibility, and sound flexibility and articulation. So it could be just scales, it could be chromatic scales, it could be a scale workout. I do a scale workout with my students, major and melodic minor, harmonic minor, harmonic major. You could do chromatic scales. Lots of different things are possible. And it's not super important what you use as long as you're focused on one thing at a time. What's up, Luke? Happy Friday. Hope you're doing good, man. Hope your dog is well. Duke was going to be on the stream today, but he ran out of the room right when I started. But he's supposed to be our special guest for this week. But what are you going to do? The dog did not want to be on the live stream. And I don't know why it's so dark on Instagram. So I'm sorry about that. I think the quality is a little higher over on YouTube and Facebook. But I apologize for that. I'll have to figure it out one of these days. But so that was the first question, talking about warm-up stuff. Like, what do I think about when I'm warming up? What's our important things for that? So feel free to drop in other questions either on Facebook or, there we go. Here they are. Now I'm seeing them. I didn't have them pulled up on Facebook. I couldn't see. Yes, Duke and Ella can meet each other one of these days. Maybe this summer sometime. Okay. Anthony, hello. Hello, Anthony. Thanks for being here. Brian just signed up recently for our Jazz Trombone Boot Camp. Really excited to have you, and really excited to have everyone at the boot camp. If you're on YouTube or on Facebook, you can see the link down in the comment here to get over to sign up for the boot camp. The boot camp is June 14th through 18. I won't belabor the point, but let me get to his question. Do you think keys have emotions? And now I can't see it. If so, yes. What do you think are the happiest and saddest keys? Yes, see, he's coming to camp, and it's going to be great. So you should come to camp too. Boot camp. Okay, keys. Yes, they have different emotions, I think, for sure. I kind of hear them in range of bright and dark. I don't know if about happy or sad. Everybody knows that D minor is the saddest all keys, right? I don't know if it's still true. But let's see. So, for example, I don't like the key of B flat because B flat sounds very boring to me. It sounds very played out, and like I've heard so much music that sounds bad in the key of B flat that I just mostly don't want to hear anything in the key of B flat. So I think G flat is a good sounding key. I think D flat is a good sounding key. I like B major and F sharp major, which is the same as G flat, but I think that they sound nice, and I think they actually lay really well on the trombone when you decide not to use first position as your home base. So just food for thought there. So yeah, those are the keys. Bowmaster. Yeah. I mean, I would suggest going to Bob McChesney's website. So the question is from John. He says, any idea where I can purchase the Bob McChesney Doodle Tongue book? Well, I thought it was on Amazon. Let me see. Real time, I can look it up. Let's see. Bob McChesney trombone book. Yeah, it's on Amazon. Or you can go to his website. I believe he sells it off of his website. Let's see if let's say Bob McChesney. I think it's just bobmcchesney.com. Yeah, bobmcchesney.com. And then you just go to books. And he has it here. Doodle Studies and Etudes. Yep, I would check that out. That's what it's called. Doodle Studies and Etudes if you want to learn how to doodle tongue. Favorite Kai Winding jazz composition? I don't really listen to Kai Winding without JJ. And I think I like JJ's tunes more. I like JJ's tune Judy. That's a good one. Long tones seem to be falling out of favor among trombone players. They do? Says who? Why? Oh, I'm an advocate? Yeah, of course. Why do you think trombonists should do long tones? Because it gives you a chance to realize your sound concept. If you don't know what you want to sound like, how do you know how you're going to sound good? So you got to have a strong sound concept, and you got to practice playing with that concept. So I do long tones every single time I play the trombone, even if it's just for a couple of minutes. I just play an F. Roy Hargrove used to talk about playing long tones until the room lights up. It goes for any brass instrument. You got to have a sound, man. And you get a sound by playing long tones. That's what I think. What is the John Jammin music? What is a quick way to learn and retain tunes? I mean, I think that everyone has their own method, and that they have to go through a process of getting to quick. So quick is a very relative term, and quick is something that only happens over time. Quick is not something that happens right away, in my opinion. So the quickest way for me is to learn a tune on the piano. So if I learn to play the tune on the piano, then I don't have to think about it too much. And I can translate it directly to trombone. And so that works pretty well for me. Maybe this will be better. Not really. Sorry, it's really bothering me how dark it looks on Instagram right now. But that's the quickest way, I think. Learn the tune on a instrument that's not trombone. So bass, piano, guitar, something where you can learn the melody and the chords at the same time. That's the quick way to learn and retain. Are you writing any new books? DJ asks. I'm writing a duet book. Some of my students have seen some of those duets over the last year or so. And then, so I'm almost done with that. It's in the editing stages. And then after that, I'm also writing a book that's called Create, Connect, Repeat. It's about, building a music career, music marketing, and that kind of thing in the 21st century, how to use social media, how to release music, all these kinds of things, branding, setting goals, all that kind of music business, music marketing stuff. It's in the, this kind of overall philosophy that I use for the label, and just falls under the heading Create, Connect, Repeat. So that's coming. Hopefully, I don't know how long it takes. I'm almost done. I've just finished the first full draft, just today and yesterday, got to the end of one time through, and now it's on to the editing stage. So I don't know how long that's going to take, but by the midsummer, we should definitely have, oh, looks like Facebook is maybe not working today. That's interesting. Very strange. Anyway, moving on. There it goes. Now it's on. Back to the book. It's almost done. Hopefully by the fall we'll have the duets. That's what I'm hoping for. Luke asks, what's your favorite venue? What city has the best crowds? My favorite venue? I really liked the Jazz Standard in New York. That was great. New York has the best jazz crowds, I think. Facebook is Jive, so now it just went live. Interesting. Weird. Thanks, Alton. I don't know why. I don't know what's going on today. But we'll just kind of keep going on Facebook or without Facebook if Facebook doesn't want to agree with us today. Okay. Do you use extended positions? Brian asks, i.e. first position slightly out. Why or why not? I mean, yes. I don't play first position all the way in because then you can't adjust it if it's not all the way in, you know? If it's all the way in, you can't adjust it. I mean, like if it is a little out, then you can come in. But it also comes from, I played for a long time, like in high school, I played a Con 88, an 88H, and it had a spring in it. So it was natural to like not put it all the way in. So I got used to like having that little bit of flexibility there to adjust it, that first position in if I needed to. So it just kind of stuck. But if you do it in all the way, you're just going to keep smacking yourself in the face, you know, whack, whack, whack. I mean, that's no fun. So yeah, I play it out. I play it out just like a little bit. What's up, Dion? What's up, Philip? Tiago? Thanks for joining. If you don't know Dion Tucker has a great channel, YouTube channel called the Chop Shop. Great videos there. But, you know, some similar things. He dives more into super detail about some of his experiences. I know one really great video he has about his experiences with vocal dystonia. So if anyone's having some chop, you know, stuff, that's a great resource. So check out Dion Tucker and his YouTube channel. All right, there were a lot of questions that came in rapid fire, so I want to go back and make sure I didn't miss any here. From Jack. Hi, Jack. People often describe Bebop as language. Do you see it as a living language like English, currently evolving, developing, or a dead language like Latin, a set language on which later ones are based? That is a very interesting question, Jack. A very good question. I'm going to pull it back up again so I can think about it. Do I think it's a living language or a dead language? That is interesting. I guess it's more of the latter. I guess it's kind of like a set language almost, in a certain way, rhythmically. Like there's definitely certain sounds and colors that you would not describe as being bebop sounds or bebop colors. So I suppose it's kind of like it is like a subset of the jazz language, is like bebop specific language. I guess. So I guess it's more like Latin. But I think the jazz language in general is an evolving language. But maybe like the different eras of it are more like Latin, in which like early jazz, like there's kind of a cutoff. Like you're not going to play certain things when you're playing traditional jazz or early jazz. And the same thing is like, I'm not going to play a modern tune with like crazy mixed meter modal changes with like a super simple 1-3-5 pentatonic kind of approach, I don't think. So I think it definitely is evolving, but that's a good question. I've never really thought about that. That is very interesting to think about. I don't know. I don't know if it's dead. Dead feels like such like a finite, like it's over. Like it doesn't feel like it's over, but it definitely doesn't feel like necessarily like people are not reinventing the bebop language, you know, because bebop kind of covers a certain kind of era, you know. That's interesting though. Brian asks, what's the worst part you've ever had to play? Poor engraving, notation, arranging, or just a difficult piece to play? Man, there's so much badly written music out there. Badly copied, I mean. That has nothing actually to do with the music at all. That you just kind of get used to it at a certain point. So the worst parts I've ever had to play is when it's usually like written by a student. No offense. But undergrads with bad handwriting that bring in transcriptions are probably like the worst. The worst actual like engraving. But in terms of like a real chart, it's got to be like the ones where it's a copy of a copy of a copy of a handwritten copy of something, you know, like ditto machines copied and all of that. But I mean, there's lots of difficult music, so I don't know that I necessarily have like a one that sticks out in my brain. But I've done plenty of bad copy work myself, so I'm not going to only put the blame on other people. I have plenty of bad copy work that I've done. So, you know, All right, Max has a question here on Instagram, so we'll get to that here. What's up, Max? I'm having problems with a double buzz at the moment. It's getting worse and really getting on top of me. How have you come across this before? Have any tips for dealing with it? Yeah, man, you got to chill out about it, number one. And you got to play long tones, and you got to play them quietly, and you got to play whisper tones. So whisper tones, if you don't know, is like when you play right at the edge of where the tone starts. So JJ used to talk about these. Steve Trey was talking about them with me. So a whisper tone, it's just like if you either go from a note and then you decrescendo all the way until you're right on the edge of where the note stops. And what you're doing is you're focusing on the aperture and the minimum viable buzz, or the minimum amount of air that needs to come out in order to activate the sound, right? So I would suggest, I like to go from nothing and go up. So like start from no sound, blow, and right where the sound starts is where you stop, and you hold it right there on the edge, and you play long tones. Wynton Marsalis talks about these too. So what it's doing, it's not like saying I'm not going to have a double buzz. What it's doing is it's focusing the embouchure and focusing the air, and you're feeling where on your chops it's actually buzzing and where it's actually activating the sound. So it's a huge undertaking. It's going to take a while. It's going to be hard. But if you can just do it on a low B flat and then just do it on an F, and then you can just kind of go down chromatically and use those whisper tones. Super, super, super quiet. A double buzz usually happens when you're out of focus, right? So you got to play long tones. You got to play softly, all the things that are hard and boring, basically. So, and focus on, no matter what kind of problem you're having, when you're having some kind of trombone problem, I always recommend focusing on the solution, not the problem. So if you're like, oh my God, I have this double buzz. Oh my God, I have this double buzz. Oh my God, what do I do? It's going to just keep happening. But if you focus on the really, the result, not, you focus on, this is the way I want to play. This is the sound I want to have. This is where I'm trying to feel on my chops with these whisper tones. Focus on the result. Focus on the process and result rather than on the problem, because focusing on the problem will only kind of keep it going. So long tones, whisper tones. If those aren't working, then you could try some lip bends. And I've got some videos on YouTube about that if you want to check those out. But hopefully that gets you started, Max. What's up, Ethan? Ethan Cypress. Subject of engraving. Just curious if you're a fan of either Finale or Sibelius. I use Finale, but I only use Finale because I got it from being in the Grammy band in 2005. And then I learned how to use it and learned all the workarounds. And then I just decided I didn't want to learn another software. So I'm a Finale person. I think that it is more customizable in the long run. It is more difficult to work with, though, in the short run, but it's more powerful overall. But if you don't need those features, then I think it might not be worth it. Like if you just need to make quick charts, like Sibelius might be faster, but Finale, I think, usually looks cleaner when it's used with someone who knows what they're doing. And he asked about Dorico. So Dorico is a new music notation software that I have not tried out. I would be interested to try it out. I was talking about it with Oded Lavary, a great arranger in New York who does a lot of work with Anat Cohen's group, and he does all the arranging for that. And he was a Finale person, and he switched to check out Dorico. I don't know. I'll have to find out if he switched. I think maybe not all the way, but I've heard that that's cool too. I haven't used it yet. The expert on music engraving is Darcy James Argue. He's got a lot of info there. And then one of my students turned me on to a blog. Well, I don't remember what it is. There's a film composer on the West Coast has a blog with lots of Finale stuff about engraving and like how to make it look good and all of that. So not really an answer to your question, but sort of. So no, I haven't checked out Dorico. I'm a Finale person. That's the short answer. Brian also asks, what is it like recording with the Hipbone Big Band? It was a lot of fun. I mean, the section was Jeff Nelson, who's a great bass trombonist, and then Marshall Jilks and myself and Michael Davis. And, for me, it was just like playing with my heroes, like Michael Davis was one of the first people that I knew of that played trombone, and he wrote trombone books, and he was playing with the Rolling Stones, and like I had his CD Bone Town, and playing with Bill Reichenbach, and being from Rochester and having Eastman there, that connection was like big for me and big all the way around. What's up, Jalen? That process of like having that hometown connection was pretty big and pretty lasting, I guess. And so, yeah, anyway, I was like playing with heroes, but it was really hard to make sure that I lived up to the standard that I wanted to have for myself. I kind of felt like I was cheating though a little bit, because we recorded that piece, Trombone Institute of Technology, this duet, and a friend of mine and I in high school worked on it. So I had like known it for a long time, and then he brought it in for the big band, and I was like, oh, I feel like I'm cheating because I already have played this a lot of times. And obviously it was a different arrangement, but all the hard stuff was the same. So I had a advantage, I guess. But it was super fun. I'm on like half the record. There's like, because he had rotated a bunch of people, so it's super cool to be a part of. I don't know. Okay, I see Jackson and DJ's question. Let's go with Jackson's was first, so I'll go with Jackson and then DJ. Could you describe the process for starting your own record label? Well, I started it because I was being impatient and I wanted to get my first record out on my schedule, and all the labels said a different schedule, and I said, I'm going to do it on my own. So that was how it started. And then I learned from that, and then releasing on a different label, and then doing my own again, and then doing a different label, and then doing my own again. I've learned a lot along the way, but the process of starting it was just releasing something and putting a name on it. And then after that, it was, actually figuring out how to start a business, actually figuring out how to open a bank account, getting a tax ID number, all of those sorts of things. But you kind of, something that I didn't, well, how should I put this? I started the label because I was helping my friends with their projects, and it kind of grew naturally from like me helping out friends to like actually helping people get their music all the way out. But because of that, I set it up in such a way that it's like very artist focused, which makes sense, right? Like I'm an artist. I want my friends to get the best, results that they can. So it's set up to be an artist centric deal. Most labels take 70, 80, 90%. And if they put any money into the project as recoupable expenses, they take even more. They use what's called a multiple, and you owe them 5 to 10 times more than what you borrowed. And it's kind of, if you want to go on a deep dive, you can go on YouTube and kind of check it out. But so I got like none of that. I'm not taking any publishing, any copyrights, nothing. It's going to be just a distribution, a percentage of the distribution, physical and digital. But in the long run, it's kind of created a situation where, I do a lot of stuff, and then there's not a lot of money coming in, and there's like kind of differing expectations between artists and what they expect versus what we're taking and what we're able to do for the amount of money that we are taking, which is very little. You can just imagine, you can just do the math. If you're making a couple $1,000s total, and we're taking, 20 to 30% maximum, you can do the math that there's only a couple $100 for us to like make a lot of stuff happen. So sometimes it's a little tricky, but I started it because I wanted to help my friends, and I wanted to build something bigger than just myself, a community, so it's been cool, a little bit at a time. We had a pretty big release today from a big artist named Ulysses Owens Jr. He's a great drummer, plays with Christian McBride, used to play with Kurt Elling, does a lot of stuff on his own, and great producer himself. And he, we partnered with him on this release, so that came out today, actually. It's called Soul Conversations. So, but I mean, there's lots of other great artists, great friends too, and Stephen Feifke, a great composer, big band arranger. He released a big band record last month, and so we've been kind of just pushing ahead, trying to just help people get their music out. So yeah. I don't know. Hopefully that answers your question. But basically, I was just being impatient. It's the short answer. I saw DJ had a question. Let me go back here. Do you think that with the amount of attention more modern trombone players have been getting, that there's been a rise in technically proficient but historically uninformed musicians? I don't know. I think that you're right, that there are a lot more technically proficient musicians. I think there's a lot of people that don't know what they want to do, and that they don't want to play classical music, and so they go into playing jazz. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I'm not sure that everyone that goes down the jazz path really wants to be on the jazz path. And only because there's not a lot of chat or clarity or conversation around what it means, why you would want to be on this kind of jazz path. But I also go back and forth about like how important is it to know the history. Like on one hand, I very much think it's important to know, because if you want to work in the scene, you got to know what different styles are and what different expectations are of you in different styles as a trombonist. How do you fulfill the role of the trombone in different situations? Like I can't say that it's the same all the time. Like it's different, it's changing all the time. So for me, I want to know about the styles and everything like that. So to me, it's important. But I don't know that like you find innovators who care that much about everything in the past. I think you have to kind of pick and choose and follow your own instincts at a certain point. So for me, it's like learn as much as possible and then throw it all away, kind of, like, because you got to find your own voice doing this. Like, what's the point? Like, nobody wants to hear another Charlie Parker. People want to hear someone informed by the history of the saxophone, who has his own voice, like, who's people like Emmanuel Wilkins and Patrick Bartley, people like that, But anyway, so I don't know, DJ. That's an interesting question. It brings conflict within me to think about stuff like that, because I just don't know at the end of the day, how important it is. Like, I'm like on board that like you can't have technique without any sort of purpose behind it. Like it doesn't do you any good to have just like a bunch of technique and no like expression, But at the same time, like there's plenty of musicians that have great expression and less technique that I'd rather listen to. It's about having something to communicate and have something to say, I think sometimes we get it pushed into things, by society, by supportive people in our lives, like, you're good at this, go do this, go push yourself this way, go into this camp or that camp. And it's like sometimes we don't have like an idea of like where we want to go. And it's like you have all these teachers telling you to do all this stuff, and then you end up at the end of the thing like good at a whole bunch of things, but you don't know where you fit, or you don't have a point of view, or you don't have you don't have a thing, So I don't know. I think it's really important to have a thing. And I'm trying to get better about that for myself too. Like, what's my thing? And what's a thing that I like that people also care about and that I can really, build on. So I don't know. Sorry, long rant to your question, but I think it's important to be historically informed so you can make your own choices into the future. That's what I think. So I'm all about it. All right. Brian asks, how would you describe the difference between East and West Coast jazz? West Coast jazz, and in terms of, so I think it's changed over the years. Like, it used to be kind of this cool jazz thing, was like the West Coast jazz. And then now it's kind of changed a little bit. I would say, like, I think it's different in different parts of the West Coast, but I think the general, like, dichotomy or schism is around, I know it's particularly in trombone playing. There's kind of like a schism of style. Like, it's like on the West Coast, maybe it's a little more clean and smooth. And on the East Coast, maybe a little bit more raw and like soulful, generally speaking. But there's so many exceptions. That's not really a hard and fast rule. But to me, like if you listen to big bands or composers, musicians from New York versus LA, a lot of times in New York it's maybe a little bit more emotionally driven, a little bit more bebop, a little bit more straight ahead, a little bit more of that fire. And on the West Coast it might be a little more produced and a little bit more smooth around the edges. It might be a little bit more informed by popular culture, straight eighth note grooves, that kind of thing. Not hard and fast rules, obviously. And there's a lot of guys moving from New York to LA and, you know, kind of cross-pollinating those scenes. So I don't know. I don't think it's going to last, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just informed by the, you know, the things that are around. Like in New York, there's clubs and a lot of places to like play like that. And then in LA, there's more work that needs to be highly polished. Like you have to play that way to get on a movie score. So it makes sense. And just I think some of the taste, you know, aesthetic is different from one to the other. I happen to like the New York kind of thing, the East Coast thing, but there's nothing wrong with the West Coast thing. And there's lots of great musicians. So it has nothing, I don't know, like it's not like a good or bad thing, but do I know any youth and tuba improvisers? Yeah, Bob Stewart, man. He's a great tubist. I got to play in his band for a little while. He played with Gil Evans. He played with lots of people. Arthur Blythe, kind of in that like downtown scene in New York. But Bob and, of course, Howard Johnson, great tubist. He passed away a couple months ago. But Howard Johnson was really great. And there's a young guy, Alton Senkelar, plays euphonium. He improvises on euphonium. The guy who used to teach at UNT, Rich Madison, was an improviser on euphonium. There's J&K played a trombonium, which is sort of like euphonium. All right, William says, hi, Nick. My tone is getting better. Nice. My upper lip tend to contract a lot when I go up to the upper register and really thin out the sound. Do you know what I did wrong, possibly? Well, my guess is that you're manipulating the upper lip or pulling it under somehow while you're playing, William. Like you're going kind of like under, like that. What you want to do, put your lips together. M, got this from James Burton. If you don't know James Burton, go look him up. Great trombonist and educator. So put your chops together with like it's saying M, like mom. See how they're natural, mom. And then that's how you play. And how do you get to the upper register? You change the vowel sound on the inside of your mouth. You don't change your chops. You change the vowel sound and the airspeed. So on the inside of my mouth, I go from O to A to E. So my chops stay the same. It goes I. So you see, the only thing that changes is the corners. Sometimes the corners to go E, it pulls back, right? I. But everything is controlled with the air and with the speed and the vowel sound on the inside of the mouth. So if you're manipulating your chops at all, really, you're probably doing something wrong. But so look at yourself in the mirror, William. Check out what's happening with your chops and just try to get them to sit still. So focus on E in the upper register, A in the middle register, O in the lower register, and not moving. You're trying to keep your chops still. Put them together, nice and natural. Anything else that's not natural is eventually going to just get in the way, in my opinion. So you want it to be as natural and easy as possible. So I hope that helps, William. So you could do like a 5-note lip slur. B flat, F, B flat, D, F, and O, E, O, and the lower register, E, O, E, O, E, O. Make sense? Good. All right. Great. We had a constant stream of questions. That was really wonderful. Thank you, everyone, for those. Hope you're having a good Friday. You're about to have a wonderful weekend. We've got a couple more minutes here. Feel free to drop in any additional questions for the week. Let's see. Next Friday is the 13th. So we'll be back again next Friday, I think. Every Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern time. We do these little Q&As. So some more questions coming in. Thanks for these questions. We got a new person here. Ben. What's up, Ben? Thanks for chiming in. Have you used the book Patterns for Jazz? If so, what did you get out of it? No, and I don't own it, and I've never looked at it. And I'm sure I've played the patterns because the patterns are so like all the way out there, well known. I mean, like tons of people play those patterns. So I think it's kind of through osmosis. So no, I don't use that book. I encourage students to go to the source. David Baker's a great source, but he's a jazz education source. Go to JJ, go to Curtis, go to Freddie Hubbard, go to John Coltrane. Get the language from the cats. That's what I usually suggest. Okay, John has another question. John, did you do any conch playing with Mr. Trey? No, we never talked about the conch. Brian, what's the highest, lowest note you've ever had to play? And what's the highest note you've seen notated in bass clef using only ledger lines? High F. That's how I've seen it written. High F with, I mean, there used to be more treble clef. Even when I started playing, these Duke Ellington transcriptions from Jazz at Lincoln Center would have treble clef when one of them would get too high. When it would get high, they would switch it to treble clef or tenor clef. The highest note I've ever had to play, lowest note, probably a pedal G in a Gil Evans chart. Maybe it was a pedal F. On tenor, I mean, not on bass, but on tenor. If you had to pick one new jazz musician from the New York area and happened to play a jazz composition of theirs, who would it be? New, well, I guess new is a relative term, but I would pick Lucas Pino because I like his music. Yeah, so. Let's see. Saw some other things come in here. Okay, Jackson, what are your thoughts on dress code for performances, for better or for worse? Patrons might make first impressions based on what is worn and what's sometimes tough to navigate the vibe. Yeah. I think you have to decide. I think everything you wear or however you present yourself sends a message to the people that are watching you, whether it's online, whether you are in person, whether you are wearing a suit, whether you're wearing more of like a streetwear kind of vibe, whether it's something in between. Like it's going to send a message. So, my teachers put into me that, Art Blakey used to say, they see you before they hear you, right? So you got to look good to play good. That's what other people say, right? Now, I'm not saying like you need to wear a tuxedo, but I think you should just consider that what you wear will send a message. And whatever you want that message to be, you should wear clothes that send that message. Do I think that like ideally should the music be judged on the merits of the music? Like, of course, we wish that was the case, but 90% of the time it's not. So, it's just something to consider. So, I mean, I don't wear a suit all the time, right? On my gigs, I usually wear some combination of like trying to look nice and like wearing a blazer kind of way, but also maybe wearing some shoes, hipper shoes, or like, I don't know, just looking to be a little bit less stodgy perhaps than, just wearing a straight up like a suit. Or if I am going to wear a suit, like I need to go suit shopping really is what the moral of the story is. I need to get better suits because the ones that I had that I liked, they got stolen when I was going from New York to Texas. A bunch of them got stolen in the transit. So I only have a couple left, but I need to go suit shopping so that I feel good about them. But at any rate, you got to think. I think it's important to think about what you think, what you look like, and what it's going to send, what message it's going to send. So wearing khaki pants and a polo shirt sends a certain vibe. Wearing shorts on stage sends a vibe. Wearing jeans on stage sends a vibe. You just have to know that it's gonna send a message. Wearing all black has a certain vibe to it too. When I see all black, it reminds me of either student group or working in a Broadway pit. So I don't really like all black personally, or I don't really like black with white shirt, black suit with white shirt. Because it just feels like that's what we had to wear at Juilliard. So it feels a little bit like I'm being kind of roped in, But I mean, it's not super important what it is, but as long as you are confident about like, this is how I want to present myself, I think that you can look clean, as they would say, in a lot of different ways, My friend Lucas, he wears crazy clothes on gigs because that's what he wants to do. And that's cool. Like, I don't mind. I could wear a suit. He can wear crazy clothes. That doesn't bother me. As long as people are like, doing their thing. That's their vibe. So anyway, that was a long answer to a seemingly simple question. William asked about James Burton, Burton, Burton the Third. James Burton III. Anthony asks, thanks for being here, Anthony. He's always a very active participant. What is your own personal thoughts about jazz musicians using the Omnibook? Is it worth it? Yeah, man. I took a whole summer to play all the way through the Omnibook, and I think you're meaning the Charlie Parker Omnibook. Now there's other Omnibooks, Miles Davis and Coltrane and other people. But yeah, I think it's a good tool. I think just like anything, obviously it's better if you just do it yourself, but there's not always time. So I think it's important to, do what you got to do, So I use the Omnibook, that's for sure. But to go back to Jackson's question about the dress, you got to ask, like what the band leader wants. If they want you to express yourself or if they want you to just like look a certain way. I've had problems before wearing the wrong thing, and you learn pretty quick, what's appropriate and what's not. So, hey, Kevin, what's happening? Suit sweet. Yeah, I got to get some better suits, man. I need a suit sponsor. So whoever out there that runs a suit company, let's go. Let's get a suit sponsorship hooked up. Not Brooks Brothers. Something hipper than Brooks Brothers. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not the vibe. Okay, what classical music do you play aside from Rochu? I love playing Bach. So Bach would be the next thing after Rochu. What's up, Middleton Brass? What's up, Jose Chuckles? Yeah, I also like some of the trombone rep, the classical trombone rep. That's some of that is cool also. I've always been a fan of the Barat, Andante, and Allegro. I know it's kind of maybe overplayed, but I've always liked that one. And I've always liked the Grundal Concerto, and I've always liked the Schulek. There's other ones I'm not a fan of so much, but yeah, there's classical music I like to play for sure. All right. Excellent. Last chance to answer any more questions this week. Of course, we'll be back next week, but I'll give people another chance to drop in anything additionally. But like I mentioned before, the boot camp registration is open and will be filling up soon. So if you do want to come, make sure you sign up for that. The link is on YouTube and Facebook if you want to check that out. You can go to the link in the bio on Instagram. You can find that nickfinzer.store, wherever you want to go to find the boot camp. It's going to be great. We got Andre Hayward, we got Vincent Gartner, we got Michael Davis, who we were talking about. We got Steve Davis, and more to come. We got a couple companies that are looking to partner up on the event, and so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm going to keep some things a mystery as we're going through the registration process here. So the sooner you sign up, the better, because there's only a limited amount of people we can host in the meeting and a limited amount of slots. So. So Jazz Trombone Boot Camp, June 14 through 18. Hope you can be there. All right, so I don't think there's any more questions this week, so we're going to wrap it up here. We'll be back next Friday with another Q&A. Really glad everyone could join us today. Appreciate you all. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we will catch you next week.